I'm Alexander Mitchell, Alex for short. I'm a senior at the National Sports Academy in Boston, majoring in sports training and rehabilitation. Being captain of the swimming team and maintaining a 4.0 GPA kept me busy enough. But everything changed when I met Caleb Hayes. It was early September during one of my regular evening training sessions in the Olympic-sized pool. I had just finished my usual 2.000 meter workout when I noticed someone watching from the bleachers. As I pulled myself out of the pool, I got a better look at him, tall, athletic build, with dark hair and striking green eyes. "Can I help you?" I asked. Grabbing my towel, he stood up, moving with the natural grace of a trained athlete. "Actually, yes, I'm Caleb Hayes. Sophomore year, Coach Thompson said you might be willing to help me with my swimming technique." Ah, now I remember. Coach had mentioned a promising track athlete who wanted to cross-train with swimming. What he hadn't mentioned was how incredibly attractive this athlete was. "Sure," I said, trying to maintain my professional demeanor. "I'm Alex Mitchell. Coach mentioned you're a sprinter. 400-meter hurdles." He nodded, looking slightly nervous. "I've been swimming casually, but I need to improve my form. Coach thinks it could help with my overall conditioning." I couldn't help but notice how his track team t-shirt clung to his well-defined shoulders. "Have you brought your swim gear? We could start now if you'd like." "Really?" His face lit up. "Yeah, I've got my stuff in the locker room." While Caleb changed, I tried to get my thoughts in order. As an openly gay athlete at the academy, I'd learned to be careful about my interactions with other male athletes. The sports world, even in 2024, wasn't always the most accepting place. When Caleb returned in his swim shorts, I had to force myself to maintain eye contact. His body was a testament to years of athletic training, lean muscle built for speed and power. "Let's see what we're working with," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Show me your freestyle." I watched as he dove in and started swimming. His raw athleticism was evident, but his technique needed work. After a few laps, he stopped at my end of the pool. "How bad is it?" he asked, pushing his wet hair back from his face. "Not bad at all," I assured him. "You've got great natural ability. We just need to refine your stroke technique and breathing pattern." For the next hour, I guided him through various drills, occasionally having to adjust his position or demonstrate proper form. Each time I touched him to correct his arm position or shoulder alignment, I felt a spark of electricity. "This is harder than it looks." He laughed after a particularly challenging drill. "No wonder you swimmers are in such good shape." I tried not to read too much into the way his eyes seemed to linger on my chest as he said it. "Same time next week?" I suggested as we were finishing up. "Actually," he hesitated, "I was wondering if we could make this a regular thing. Maybe 3 times a week. I'd really like to improve quickly." My heart shouldn't have jumped at the prospect of spending more time with him, but it did. "Sure, I can do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evenings." "Perfect." His smile was radiant. "And hey, maybe someday you could come watch one of my track meets. Return the favor." There was something in his tone that made me wonder if he was flirting, but I quickly dismissed the thought. "I'd like that," I said carefully, as I watched him head to the locker room. I tried to remind myself that he was probably straight, probably just being friendly, but something about Caleb Hayes made it hard to maintain my usual professional distance. Little did I know this was just the beginning of a story that would change both our lives. Over the next few weeks, our thrice-weekly swimming sessions became the highlight of my days. Caleb was a quick learner, his athletic background making it easier for him to adapt to new techniques. But it wasn't just his swimming that was improving. Our relationship was evolving, too. We started spending time together outside of training. Sometimes he joined me for dinner at the campus cafeteria after our sessions, both of us still with damp hair and shoulders tired from swimming. Other times we'd grab coffee before morning classes, discussing everything from sports psychology to our favorite movies. I learned that Caleb came from California, where he'd been a state champion in track and field. His father was a former Olympic athlete who now coached professionally, which explained both his natural talent and the pressure he felt to succeed. Sometimes I feel like I can't breathe under all the expectations," he confided one evening as we sat on the bleachers after training. "Dad wants me to focus solely on track. Maybe even aim for the Olympics like he did. But I'm not sure that's what I want." "What do you want?" I asked softly, trying to ignore how the setting sun made his green eyes look almost golden. He was quiet for a moment, absently running a hand through his damp hair. "I love sports, but I'm also interested in sports therapy, helping athletes recover, preventing injuries, that kind of thing, like what I'm studying." "Yeah," he smiled. "Actually, watching you work with the swim team's injured athletes has made me more interested in it." Our conversations often went deep like this, revealing layers of vulnerability that surprised me. Caleb might have looked like the typical confident athlete on the surface, but underneath he was thoughtful, sometimes insecure, and incredibly genuine. One particularly cold October evening, after a grueling training session, Caleb suggested we grab dinner off campus. "There's this great Italian place a few blocks away," he said, shouldering his gym bag. "I'm starving, and campus food just isn't going to cut it tonight." The restaurant was small and cozy, with checkered tablecloths and candles on each table. It felt decidedly more intimate than our usual casual dinners. "So," Caleb said after we'd ordered, "there's something I've been wanting to talk to you about." My heart rate picked up. "Oh?" He fidgeted with his water glass, a nervous gesture I'd come to recognize. I've never told anyone this before, but," he took a deep breath, "I think I might be gay. Or maybe bi, I'm not really sure yet." The world seemed to stop for a moment. I carefully set down my own glass. "Thank you for trusting me with that," I said softly. "You're the first person I've felt safe enough to tell." He continued, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've seen how confident you are about being out, how you don't let anyone's prejudices affect you. It's inspiring." "It wasn't always easy," I admitted, "especially in sports. But being honest about who I am was worth every difficult moment." "How did you know?" he asked, looking up at me with those intense green eyes. "That you were gay? I think I always knew, deep down, but I first admitted it to myself during my sophomore year of high school. There was this guy on my swim team. We spent the next 2 hours sharing stories, his about his growing awareness of his attraction to men, mine about my coming out journey. As we talked, I felt something shift between us, a new level of understanding and connection. Walking back to campus, we were quiet, both processing the evening's revelations. The autumn air was crisp, and Caleb walked close enough that our shoulders occasionally brushed. "Alex," he said as we reached the point where we needed to split up for our respective dorms. "Yeah, thank you for everything." Before I could respond, he quickly leaned in and kissed my cheek, then turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, my heart racing and my cheek tingling where his lips had touched. The days following that dinner were filled with a new kind of tension. During our swimming sessions, every touch felt charged with meaning. Every glance held possibility. I tried to maintain my role as mentor and friend, but it was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore the attraction between us. One Wednesday evening, as I was demonstrating proper butterfly technique, I noticed Caleb wasn't really focusing on the instruction. Instead, his eyes were following the movement of my body with an intensity that made my skin heat despite the cool water. "You're not paying attention," I teased, trying to lighten the mood. He blushed. "Caught. Sorry, I got distracted." The admission hung between us, heavy with implication. I cleared my throat. "Maybe we should call it a night." "Actually," he said, moving closer in the water, "I was wondering if you'd like to come to my track meet this Saturday. It's an important qualifying event. And, well, I'd really like you to be there." "Of course," I replied, perhaps too quickly. "I'd love to." Saturday arrived, bright and crisp. The track field was packed with spectators and athletes from various schools. I found a spot in the bleachers with a good view of the hurdles. When Caleb emerged for his warm-up, my breath caught. He was wearing his team uniform, tight shorts and a sleeveless top that showed off his athletic build perfectly. He spotted me in the crowd and waved, his face breaking into that brilliant smile I'd grown to love. The word appeared in my mind unbidden, and I pushed it away, focusing instead on watching him prepare for his race. The 400-meter hurdles was always an impressive event, but watching Caleb run was something else entirely. His form was perfect, each hurdle cleared with graceful power. He won his heat easily, qualifying for the regional championships. After the meet, I waited outside the locker rooms. When he emerged, still flushed from his victory, his hair damp from the shower, he looked more beautiful than ever. "That was incredible," I said sincerely. "You make it look effortless." "Thanks." He grinned, then hesitated. "Listen, some of the team is going out to celebrate, but would you maybe want to go somewhere? Just the two of us instead?" My heart skipped. What did you have in mind? He suggested a walk through the nearby park, and I agreed. The October evening was perfect, leaves turning golden and red, the air cool enough to justify walking close together. We found a quiet bench overlooking a small pond. The setting sun painted everything in soft oranges and pinks. "Alex," Caleb said suddenly, turning to face me, "I need to tell you something, and I need you to just listen. Okay?" I nodded, my heart pounding. These past few weeks, spending time with you, it's helped me understand myself in ways I never expected. But it's more than that. He took a deep breath. "I think I'm falling in love with you." The words hung in the air between us. My chest felt tight with emotion. "I know this could complicate things." He continued quickly. "You're my senior, my mentor, and maybe you don't feel the same way. But I had to tell you. Being around you makes me feel like I can finally be myself. Like I don't have to pretend anymore." I reached out and took his hand, marveling at how perfectly it fit in mine. "Caleb," I said softly, "I've been falling for you since the first day you walked into that pool area." His eyes widened, hope and happiness flooding his features. Slowly, giving me time to pull away if I wanted to. He leaned in. When our lips finally met, it felt like everything clicked into place. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, but quickly deepened as months of suppressed feelings surfaced. When we finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Caleb rested his forehead against mine. "I've been wanting to do that for so long," he whispered. "Me too," I admitted, reaching up to cup his face. "But Caleb, are you sure about this? Coming out in the sports world isn't easy. And if we're together, I'm sure about you," he interrupted firmly. "Everything else we can figure out together." The following weeks were like living in a dream. Caleb and I spent every possible moment together, though we were careful to keep our relationship private at first. During our swimming sessions, we maintained a professional demeanor, but stolen glances and accidental touches made the tension almost unbearable. After training, we'd often sneak to my dorm room. I was lucky to have a single room as a senior athlete. There, we could finally be ourselves. Sometimes we'd study together, Caleb's head resting in my lap while I pored over my sports medicine textbooks. Other times we'd spend hours just talking, learning every detail about each other between kisses. One particularly memorable evening, Caleb brought his laptop to show me videos of his past track competitions. We sat on my bed, his back against my chest, my arms around his waist. "See that?" He pointed to his form during a hurdle jump. "Dad spent weeks helping me perfect that technique." I pressed a kiss to his neck. "You're amazing to watch. So graceful." He turned in my arms, his expression suddenly serious. "Alex, I've been thinking about telling my parents about us." "About me?" My heart skipped. "Are you sure you're ready?" "No," he admitted, "but I'm tired of hiding. When Dad calls, I want to tell him about my amazing boyfriend who's helping me become a better athlete. When Mom asks about my life here, I want to tell her about the man I'm falling in love with." I pulled him closer, overwhelmed by emotion. "Whatever you decide, I'm here for you, but there's no rush. Caleb, coming out is your journey, and you should do it on your own timeline." He kissed me then, deep and passionate, and conversation was forgotten for a while. However, keeping our relationship secret wasn't always easy, especially in the close-knit athletic community of our academy. Rumors started when people noticed how much time we spent together, how we always seemed to sit next to each other in the cafeteria, how we'd arrive at and leave practice together. The situation came to a head during a joint training session between the swim team and track team. We were doing cross-training exercises, and I was helping Caleb with his form. During a particular stretch, my hands lingered too long on his shoulders, and our eyes met with too much intimacy. "Yo, Mitchell," called out Jason, one of my swim teammates. "Getting pretty hands-on with your student there." Several athletes snickered, and I saw Caleb tense up. I quickly stepped away, maintaining my professional demeanor, but the damage was done. Later that day, I was approached by Coach Thompson in his office. "Alex," he said seriously, "I need to talk to you about Caleb Hayes." My stomach dropped, but I kept my face neutral. "What about him?" "There's been some talk, some concerns about the nature of your relationship." He looked uncomfortable. "You're a senior and his mentor. If there's anything inappropriate going on." "Coach," I interrupted, "I've been nothing but professional with Caleb. He's improved significantly in his swimming, which was the goal of our training sessions." Coach Thompson studied me for a long moment. "Just be careful, Alex. You're both valuable athletes to this academy. We wouldn't want any complications." That evening, I met Caleb in our usual spot by the park. When I told him about the conversation with Coach, he went pale. "Maybe we should cool things off for a while," he suggested, though I could see how much it hurt him to say it. "At least in public. Is that what you want?" I asked softly. "No," he admitted, his voice cracking. "What I want is to be able to hold your hand when we walk across campus. I want to kiss you after my races. I want to be normal couples do. But I'm scared, Alex. I'm scared of what people will say, what it might do to our athletic careers." I pulled him into my arms, not caring who might see us in the growing darkness. "We'll figure it out," I promised, though my own heart was heavy with uncertainty. That night, as Caleb slept beside me in my narrow dorm bed, I watched the moonlight play across his peaceful face and wondered how something that felt so right could be so complicated. As winter approached, the pressure began to mount. Caleb had qualified for a major national track competition, and his father was planning to visit the academy to help with his training. Meanwhile, I was dealing with my own stress as swim team captain, leading our team through important qualifying meets. One cold December morning, Caleb burst into my room, his face pale and hands shaking. "My dad found out," he said, collapsing onto my bed. "Someone sent him pictures of us together in the park." My blood ran cold. "What did he say?" "He's coming here tomorrow instead of next week. Says we need to have a serious discussion about my future in athletics." Caleb's voice broke. "Alex, I'm not ready for this." I sat beside him, pulling him into my arms. "You don't have to do this alone. I can be there with you when." "No," he interrupted. "He specifically said he wants to meet me alone." He looked at me with tears in his eyes. "What if he makes me leave the academy? What if he cuts off my funding?" I held him tighter, wishing I could shield him from all of this. "Whatever happens, we'll figure it out," I promised. The next day was torture. I couldn't focus during classes or practice, knowing Caleb was somewhere on campus having that difficult conversation with his father. When my phone finally buzzed with a message from him, my heart nearly stopped. "Meet me at the indoor track, please." I rushed there, finding Caleb sitting alone in the dimly lit facility. His eyes were red, but he wasn't crying. His father was nowhere to be seen. "How did it go?" I asked softly, sitting beside him. Caleb was quiet for a long moment. It was different than I expected. He was angry at first. Not about me being gay, but about me hiding it. Said he thought I trusted him more than that. He gave a shaky laugh. Then he asked if you were making me a better athlete. "What did you say?" I told him the truth, that you've not only helped me improve my swimming and overall conditioning, but that you've also helped me become more confident, more true to myself. Caleb turned to look at me. "He wants to meet you. Properly." Relief flooded through me. "Really?" "Yeah," he said. "If you're going to be part of my life, he needs to know you're good enough for his son." Caleb smiled weakly. His words, not mine. The meeting with Caleb's father, James Hayes, happened the next day. He was an imposing figure with the same green eyes as Caleb, but a more weathered face. We met at a local restaurant, and I've never been more nervous in my life. He grilled me about my training methods, my academic record, my plans after graduation, but then the conversation shifted. Caleb tells me you're the reason he's considering sports therapy as a career. James said, studying me carefully. I just showed him some of what I do. I replied honestly. He has a natural talent for understanding body mechanics and helping others. James nodded slowly. You know, I always pushed Caleb toward competitive athletics because that's what I knew. But watching him talk about therapy, about helping other athletes, I've never seen him so passionate. The tension at the table eased after that. By the end of dinner, James was sharing embarrassing stories about Caleb's childhood, and I could see where Caleb got his warm personality from. As we were leaving, James pulled me aside. Take care of him, he said quietly, and Alex, thank you for helping my son find his path. That night, Caleb and I lay in my bed, his head on my chest, talking about the future. The need for secrecy was gone, and it felt like we could finally breathe. I love you, Caleb said suddenly, propping himself up to look at me. I know we haven't said it officially yet, but I do. I love you, Alex Mitchell. My heart felt like it might burst. I love you too, Caleb Hayes. Spring semester brought changes neither of us could have anticipated. After our relationship became public knowledge, something unexpected happened. Other athletes started coming to us for advice and support. We became, somewhat accidentally, role models for LGBTQ+ athletes at the academy. One particularly memorable moment came after a joint training session. A freshman from the baseball team approached us nervously. Hey, he said, shifting from foot to foot. I just wanted to say, seeing you guys being open about who you are, it's helped me accept myself too. More conversations like this followed. Caleb and I found ourselves creating an informal support group for LGBTQ+ athletes, meeting weekly in one of the study rooms. The athletic department, seeing the positive impact, officially recognized our group and provided resources. Coach Thompson, who had once warned me about complications, became one of our strongest allies. He worked with other coaches to implement sensitivity training and anti-discrimination policies. As for our athletic careers, they flourished. Caleb broke the academy record in the 400-meter hurdles, and I led the swim team to nationals. Our relationship, far from being a distraction, seemed to fuel our success. We pushed each other to be better, supported each other through victories and defeats. In March, Caleb came to watch me compete in my final swimming championship as a college athlete. After I won gold in the 200-meter butterfly, he was waiting at the edge of the pool. Without hesitation, he pulled me into a kiss right there in front of everyone. The crowd's cheers grew even louder. Congratulations, Captain, he grinned when we broke apart. As graduation approached, we faced new decisions. I had been accepted into a prestigious sports therapy program in Chicago, and Caleb still had 2 years left at the academy. The prospect of long distance loomed over us. One evening, as we sat in our usual spot by the park pond, Caleb surprised me. I applied for a summer internship at the rehabilitation center in Chicago, he said casually. I turned to look at him. What? I figured I could get some practical experience. See if sports therapy is really what I want to do. He smiled. Plus, there's this guy I'm in love with who's going to be there. Caleb, I started. I don't want you to change your plans for me. I'm not, he said firmly. This is for me too. Dad agrees it's a great opportunity. And he took my hand. Maybe we could look for an apartment together. Just for the summer, at first, but are you asking me to live with you? Eventually, yeah, I mean, I'll still have to come back here for school. But Chicago's not that far. We could make it work. Looking at him in the fading sunlight, I saw our future stretching out before us, weekends together, late-night phone calls, supporting each other's dreams while building our own. It wouldn't be easy, but nothing worth having ever is. Yes, I said, pulling him close. Let's make it work. On graduation day, as I walked across the stage to receive my diploma, I saw Caleb in the crowd, sitting with my parents and his father. They were all cheering, a family brought together by love and acceptance. Later that night, at the graduation party, Caleb and I slow danced under the fairy lights strung across the gym. Other couples danced around us. Some straight, some gay, no one batting an eye. Remember when we first met? Caleb murmured against my ear. Did you ever think we'd end up here? I thought about that evening by the pool. How nervous and careful we'd both been. No, I admitted, but I'm so glad we did. Me too, he said, pulling back to look at me. You know, Alex, you didn't just teach me how to swim better. You taught me how to be brave, how to be myself. You taught me too, I replied softly. You taught me that love is worth any risk. As we danced under the twinkling lights, surrounded by friends and family who accepted us for who we were, I realized that our story wasn't just about two athletes falling in love. It was about courage, about being true to yourself, about creating change through example. And it was just the beginning.